I need to tell you something that I wish someone had told me much earlier. Something that took me a long time to fully understand, and by the time I did, I had already watched it quietly reshape my child right in front of my eyes. And I almost missed it completely. Because here is the thing about screen time. It does not announce itself. It does not show up with warning signs. It does not knock on your door and say, hey, something is going wrong here. It just happens, slowly, quietly, in the background of your normal everyday life. You hand your child the tablet so you can finish making dinner. You let them watch one more episode because you are exhausted and you just need 15 minutes of peace. You give them the phone in the car because the drive is long and you cannot handle the noise right now. And every single one of those moments makes complete sense. Every single one of those decisions is something any loving, caring, thoughtful parent would make. But what if I told you that those moments were adding up to something you could not see yet? What if I told you that right now, in this exact moment, there are actual, measurable changes happening inside your child's brain that most parents never even find out about until the damage has already been done? Because here is what the research actually shows, and this is where I need you to really pay attention. Studies coming out of major research institutions have found that children who are exposed to excessive screen time show measurable differences in brain structure. Not behavioral differences, not mood differences, actual physical, structural differences in the parts of the brain responsible for attention, emotional regulation, and impulse control. The cortex, the part of your child's brain that handles thinking, problem-solving, and self-control, was literally found to be thinner in children with higher screen exposure compared to children with less. That stopped me cold when I first understood what that actually meant. And before you spiral, because I know you might be feeling that wave of guilt or panic right now, I want you to hear me on this. You are not a bad parent. You are a parent living in the most overstimulating, technology-saturated era in all of human history, trying to do the best you can with what you've been given. That matters. That counts. And that is exactly why this conversation is so important right now. But I also need you to stay with me, because what comes next is where things get really real. There is a program linked down below in the video description that has already helped families work through exactly what I am about to walk you through. I want to mention it now because spaces are genuinely limited, and the families who find it early are the ones who see the biggest transformation. If you are still on the fence by the end of this video, that is completely fine. But do not let waiting become your reason for missing it entirely. Now let me show you why this matters so deeply. Think about the last time your child was genuinely bored, and I mean truly bored, with nothing to do, no screen in reach, no device to fill the silence. What happened? Did they get creative? Did they use their imagination? Or did they immediately panic, ask for a screen, and escalate into a meltdown the moment the answer was no? Because that reaction is not a personality flaw. That is not your child being difficult or ungrateful. That is neurological. That is a brain that has been trained to expect a dopamine hit every few seconds, and when that hit does not come, the system goes into genuine distress. Screens, particularly the apps and platforms designed for children, are engineered to be as stimulating as possible. There are teams of scientists and psychologists whose entire job is to make sure your child cannot look away. Every notification, every autoplay, every bright color transition, every reward sound is deliberately designed to hijack the brain's reward system. And a child's brain, which is not fully developed, has almost no defense against it. So when your child melts down without a screen, that is not drama, that is withdrawal. And when they cannot concentrate on a simple task, when they stare blankly at homework they used to enjoy, when they snap at you over something tiny, when they seem restless and irritable and just not themselves, that is not a phase. That is a pattern. And it has a cause. Here is another pattern that the research keeps surfacing, and this one is particularly heartbreaking. Children with high screen exposure consistently show reduced ability to read facial expressions and social cues. Because when a child spends hours looking at a screen, they are not practicing the incredibly complex, nuanced skill of reading another human being. They are not watching how someone's eyes change when they are hurt, even if they are smiling. They are not learning how tone of voice shifts when someone is actually scared versus playfully scared. Those are skills that are built through thousands of hours of real human interaction, and screens are quietly eating into that developmental window every single day. Parents have come forward in study after study and said the same things. My child used to be so empathetic. They used to notice when I was upset. They used to ask me how I was feeling. And then something shifted, and they could not figure out what changed or when it happened. Now they know. And here is what makes this even harder. The effects of excessive screen time are not always loud and obvious. Sometimes they are quiet and subtle and easy to explain away. Your child starts sleeping worse, but you think it is just a phase. They become more anxious, but you think they are picking up stress from school. They seem more disconnected from you, but you think it is just them getting older. You fill in the blanks with the most comfortable explanation, because the alternative is too uncomfortable to sit with. But deep down, something feels off. And if you have been feeling that, I want you to trust that instinct. That feeling is not paranoia, that is a parent knowing their child. Now I want to shift because this is not just a story about loss. This is actually a story about what becomes possible when you understand what is happening and you make a change. Families who have reduced screen time and replaced it with intentional, structured alternatives consistently report transformations that sound almost too good to be true. But they are not. They are documented, they are measurable, and they happen faster than most people expect. Within a few weeks of meaningful reduction, parents report that their children begin sleeping more deeply. And that matters enormously, because sleep is when the brain literally cleans itself, consolidates memory, and processes emotion. A child who is sleeping better is a child whose brain is healing. Within a month, the meltdowns begin to reduce in frequency and intensity, because the brain is no longer in a constant cycle of overstimulation and withdrawal. It is starting to recalibrate, to find its own rhythm again. Within 2 to 3 months, parents start noticing something that almost brings them to tears. Their child starts playing, not watching someone else play, not playing a game on a screen, actually playing, using objects in the real world, inventing scenarios, getting lost in their own imagination for 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time. That, in neurological terms, is the prefrontal cortex coming back online. That is the brain doing exactly what it is supposed to do. And the relational shift, this one is the one that gets parents every time. Because there comes a moment, and the parents who have been through this know exactly what I am talking about, where your child looks at you, really looks at you, and they ask you something personal. They want to know how you feel about something. They want to sit with you and just be together without a screen between you, and you realize that somewhere along the way, you had started to miss them even while they were in the same room, and now they are back. That is not a small thing, that is everything. And none of it requires perfection. None of it requires you to become a screen-free household overnight or to feel like you have failed every time a device gets used. The research on families who see lasting improvement is clear. It is not about elimination. It is about intention. It is about having a framework that actually works with your child's neurology instead of fighting against it. Researchers and child development specialists working in this space have spent years studying what actually moves the needle for families and what does not. And the patterns are consistent. The families who try to white-knuckle it with willpower and rules alone almost always fall back. The families who succeed are the ones who understand the underlying biology, who have tools that work with their child's brain, and who make changes that are sustainable and actually enjoyable for the whole family. The difference in outcomes between those two groups is not small. It is dramatic. And it is measurable within weeks, not years. You have been in this video for a while now. You did not click away when it got uncomfortable. You stayed through the hard parts. And that tells me something about who you are as a parent. It tells me that you are the kind of person who faces the truth, even when it is not easy. And those are exactly the parents who get the most out of doing the work. The program linked in the description below is designed specifically for parents who are ready to stop hoping things improve on their own and ready to actually move the needle. Families who went in skeptical came out saying it was the most practical, most immediately impactful thing they did for their child's well-being all year. If you are still telling yourself you will look into it later, I want you to ask yourself honestly, how long have you been saying later? Because your child's brain is not waiting. And neither is this window. The link is below. Go now. Your child's version of themselves that you remember, and the even better version they are meant to become, is waiting for you on the other side of this decision.